From your local election headquarters, this is Eyewitness News.
And welcome everyone. I'm Brad Bird with Eyewitness News from your local election headquarters. This is our live web stream on our Eyewitness News website, tristatehomepage.com. A big day in Indiana in the national spotlight as voters finally get their say in the presidential primary that has basically invaded the state during the past few weeks. We're going to take a look at the results right now in the presidential race. Let's first take a look at these numbers in the GOP race. Now, keep in mind, ABC News has projected that Donald Trump will win the Indiana primary. Now, here are the numbers in with 26% of the votes coming in, and we can assume that these are votes that have been tallied in the Eastern time zone, 1 hour ahead of the Central time zone, of course, and this is in the basically the bulk of Indiana with the exception of southwestern Indiana and up in the region, in the northwest region of the state of Indiana. But Donald Trump with a commanding lead over Senator Ted Cruz, and this is a big night for Donald Trump. The biggest question is, how many delegates will he actually walk away after the final votes are counted in Indiana? Now, with that in mind, I want to go now to USI Associate Professor of Political Science, Dr. Matt Hanke. And Dr. Hanke, you are basically saying right now that this is obviously a very important win for Donald Trump. And the big question is, will Ted Cruz stay on? He has said, win or lose, he's going to stay with us all the way to the convention. But at the same time, he said Indiana was so crucial to him.
Indiana was crucial. He has to figure out how many delegates he will get from this. It's a winner-take-all. 30 of the delegates in Indiana are winner-take-all if it's a majority. And he can get, there's 3 delegates per congressional district for times 9 for a total of 27. So there's 57 delegates up for grabs. He could get a few. But then he's setting his sights on New Jersey and California, and hopefully he can get some of those delegates as well. But he's pressing on. He's pressing on, knowing that that the math isn't there for him to get to 1237, and knowing that perhaps he can persuade other voters and other delegates to come his way. Trump's at a point where he's close to 1,000 bound delegates. They must vote for him in the first ballot. He's hoping that if he doesn't get a clear majority, that the second and third ballot of the convention would prove otherwise. But Trump's getting close. If these other outcomes, if he gets a lot of delegates coming up tonight, and he gets in the other contests, he could get to 1237 anyway. It depends on his outcome on California, and I think there's winner take all with respect to congressional districts there, as well as statewide. So that.
Staying in Indiana, though, I mean, this is just not a presidential primary, but this race is definitely impacting a lot of local races. We're going to go right now to Eyewitness News' Tina Stein. She's at GOP headquarters in downtown Evansville, and Tina has been monitoring this campaign. Of course, she interviewed Donald Trump just yesterday in Indianapolis. Tina, what's the mood down there, especially with some of the local races that are impacted by this?
A big change in crowd from when we last saw you at Eyewitness News at 6:30 about 45 minutes ago. As you can see, the room has filled up. There are about 50 or so people here. All eyes on that screen as the early results are starting to come in. We did hear the first cheers of the night. That's for Johnny Kincaid, who is a longtime radio personality running for state representative, representing the 77th district. That, of course, was Gail Rickens' seat. She decided after her unsuccessful bid to run for mayor that she would not run for re-election in the Indiana State House. Congressman Larry Bouchon just arrived as well. So a few more candidates expected to make it here throughout the night. So we will be here with everyone as the vote totals start coming in. We'll check back in with you here on Eyewitness News. Brad, back to you.
All right, Eyewitness News, Tina Stein, and my colleague Jordan Vandenberg is at the Democratic Election Party Watch tonight. And of course, for the Democrats, they're keeping a close eye, Dr. Hanke, with this race between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, much closer than what we're seeing on the GOP side.
Exactly. The latest poll on Sunday had Clinton with a 4 percentage point lead, but that's within the margin of error. So this is too close to call as we see the numbers. Bernie leading 53-47. There's still a lot of the other votes coming, and Hillary will probably get a lot more in these other counties, especially in the Central Time Zone.
All righty, and let's go now to Eyewitness News' Jordan Vandenberg. He's at the Democratic Party Watch.
Yeah, we're live here at Germania Manticore, the place of a rich German history, but today they're serving fried chicken and a little bit of barbecue. I'm joined now by Vandenberg County Democratic Party Chairman Rob Faulkner, who's also the food and beverage chairman at the event here tonight. You know, some of the early results are still trickling in. You've had a chance to look at some of them, but mainly let's focus on voter turnout. What did you see with your eyes, and what did you hear with your ears today?
The polling places I went to was very busy, and I think turnout is going to be very high for a primary, which is always a good thing.
You know, in early voting, upwards of 9,000 people, similar to what we saw in 2008. Do you think these two elections are really similar in terms of the gumption and the get out the vote? People really want to get out and make their voices heard?
Well, I think there are. I think there's excitement on both sides.
As far as the Democratic Party is concerned, what are your thoughts about your crop of candidates, specifically in the District 77 state representative race?
Well, it'll be interesting to see who prevails. I would be well satisfied with any one of them. They're all three excellent young folks, and any one of them would be proud to go into the fall election with.
And that's a seat you haven't really had to worry about for quite a while with Gail Reekin, obviously with her retiring. How important is it to keep that in Democratic control?
Well, it is one of the few democratically held seats in this area. The seats have all been gerrymandered to make the Republican seats safe, and so it's the one that they gave us, and more or less when they gerrymandered. So we're going to try to preserve it and keep it in Democratic hands.
And as far as looking at the presidential election, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton still neck and neck at this point. But here locally, Hillary had a pretty strong showing, at least in the early returns. What are your thoughts, kind of from the outside looking in, on the presidential race?
Well, it looks like on the Democratic side, it's neck and neck with Hillary and Bernie, and that's going to go right down to the wire, and we'll have to see how that turns out. It's a proportional delegate allocation, so neither one of them is going to walk away with a lot more delegates than the other. Looks like it'll be more or less a push.
And regardless of who wins, how important is it for the Democratic Party in general to unify and kind of come together after a long and kind of bitter primary season?
It's very important, and I think it will happen. I think that Democrats and thinking independents will be so mortified at the prospect of the horror of a Trump administration that they'll come together, just out of sheer terror, if nothing else.
All right, I know you got a lot of people to go and talk to. Appreciate your time. We'll go ahead and send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you so much. Jordan Vandenberg out at the Democratic Party Watch tonight at Germania Manticore. Dr. Matt Hanke from USI with us tonight, our guest political analyst. Matt, let's talk about polling. We had two conflicting polls this past weekend. One had Ted Cruz winning by about 15% of the vote. The next day, it was just the other way around, Donald Trump winning by 15%. It appears as though that second poll has been bared out tonight. This mathematical equation that Senator Cruz is looking at, getting into the Democratic, or rather the GOP convention, what could he possibly do now? What must he do now if he is going to see this to the very end?
I mean, he could perhaps get delegates that maybe were those that were in Trump's corner, perhaps to persuade them to come over to his, but that's unlikely if they're bound based upon the results. But he can do the second on the first ballot, but the second ballot is probably more likely that when that second ballot comes, if Trump doesn't get the majority, he can get those to sway his way. I think there's some kind of deal he has to make if the first happens.
And this whole idea of a contested open convention in Cleveland takes place. Basically got started when Senator Cruz was doing very well with the delegate strategy in some of these primaries, getting to those delegates before the deadline for their vote.
That's right.
But does he have that opportunity now, that particular strategy, that tactic leading up to Cleveland? Or must he just finally get these people who are attending his rallies to vote for him?
I think he's got to work on getting the majority of the voters in the remaining contests, but it's not adding up. There's a scenario where June comes and Trump could have the majority of delegates.
And today I was listening to a commercial coming into work. It was a cruise commercial, and they openly just talked about the Kasich cruise attempt to unify, as that commercial stated, the GOP, true GOP conservatives. Donald Trump's voters are extremely loyal, and this Stop Trump movement has been going on for some time now, but it seems as though whenever Donald Trump speaks out, and if there is an attack either on him or if he speaks out attacking another candidate, I won't call it a Teflon type thing, but his poll numbers actually go up. How is that happening?
People are hearing Trump, and it's refreshing. They're hearing a voice because they feel that the system is broken. They feel that even if a Ted Cruz is positioning himself to be an agent of change, he still represents that system. Trump doesn't, number one. And number two, he's been able to convince the voters or persuade them that we can't do it the way we did it before. The idea, one thing in one of the debates was, and Cruz called out Trump for wanting to be flexible. That's not the biggest crime in the world, to be flexible in who you're dealing with your enemies. Trump sees everything that, mind you, it's from a business mindset, but he's seeing that what's wrong with trying to be flexible to work and negotiate with our adversaries, our opponents, and our enemies. That's I think the problem people have. It's almost a non-starter to deal with some of these folks, and that's one thing. Number two, it's the economy, and a lot of those folks who probably in the exit polls are indicating the economy is number one, that Trump is going to get jobs and do away with the bad trade deals.
All right. Well, keep it right here on the Eyewitness News website, tristatehomepage.com. Our next tentative live stream coming up at 7:45. USI Associate Professor Dr. Matt Hankett, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it.
We'll continue our local election headquarters coverage. We have Tina Stein at GOP headquarters and Jordan Vandenberg at the Democratic Party watch. For Eyewitness News, I'm Brad Bird. We'll check back in with you in about 15 minutes.
In the world, America stands up to it and confronts it. Even from a Montgomery jail, our voice for justice and equality rings out for the ages. America is hopeful, optimistic. America is kind. We are not boastful or mean-spirited. America is brave. We keep our word, and we believe in peace through strength. We have spilled more blood, spent more treasure in defense of liberty than any country in history. Yet we do not engage in wars of conquest. We do not seek to enrich ourselves at our neighbor's expense. America is the land that gave my mom, an Irish-Italian girl growing up in a working-class family, the chance to be the first in her family ever to go to college, to become a pioneering computer programmer in the 1950s. I love you, Mom. America is the land that welcomed my father as a penniless immigrant. He'd seen oppression, prison, and torture in Cuba. And for him, America was hope. It was opportunity. In 1957, if someone had told that teenager washing dishes for 50 cents an hour that one day his son would be elected to the Senate, and he would get a chance to cast his ballot for his son to be President of the United States.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brad Bird. We're going to interrupt programming just for a couple of moments here. Texas Senator Ted Cruz speaking right now in Indianapolis in a presumed concession speech. Most media outlets projecting Donald Trump the winner of the GOP primary in Indiana.
In recent months, a lot of people have been talking about what happened 40 years ago at the Republican convention in Kansas City, our party's last contested convention. When I look back at that convention in Missouri, I think of the speech that Ronald Reagan gave to our party. He spoke not of the next 4 years. He saw not the close horizons that are of interest to those who seek to build their own fortunes in the short term. But instead, he looked to the distant times that concern the men and women whose purpose it is to secure the blessings of liberty to their posterity. Ronald Reagan spoke of the next 100 years and of the generations of Americans who would come to know whether our nation had escaped the existential threat of nuclear war, who would know whether our party had succeeded in its fight against the erosion of constitutional freedoms that only grow and multiply under rule of the Democratic Party. Ronald Reagan spoke of the purpose that defined our party then and that must unite and drive our party now. The Republican Party of Ronald Reagan and of George Herbert Walker Bush ensured that thousands of nuclear missiles that the Soviet Union and the United States had targeted each other were never fired, and that Soviet communism was consigned to the ash heap of history. They fought hard so that our American freedoms were not lost to any foreign foe, nor sacrificed in pursuit of any domestic agenda of the Democratic Party. Yet the challenges we face today remain as great as ever. Americans are deeply frustrated and desperately want to change the path that we're on. We have economic stagnation at home, and our constitutional rights are under assault. Under the Obama-Clinton foreign policy, Russia has emerged as a resurgent threat. China looks with a covetous eye on the lands of our allies in the region. A nuclear North Korea and a near-nuclear Iran yearn to devastate our homeland. And radical Islamic terrorism unleashes an evil that threatens the world. This year, 2 weeks before our party gathers in Cleveland, all Americans will celebrate the 240th birthday of the United States of America. American parents and grandparents will watch the fireworks with their kids and will dream of the grandchildren and great-grandchildren to come and wonder how those future generations of Americans will remember what we do not only this summer, but in the coming decades. Will we rise to meet the challenges that face our nation on the international stage, or will we withdraw and cower timidly from the world? Will we secure freedom of thought, expression, and religion for future generations? Or will we succumb to the tyranny of a political correctness and the temptation of racial politics and balkanization here at home? Will we hold fast to our founding values of rewarding talent, hard work, and industry? Or will we continue on that path of creeping socialism that incentivizes apathy and dependency? Will we deliver control of health care to citizens and their doctors? Or will we continue down the Obamacare road to second-rate socialized medicine? Will we keep America safe from the threats of nuclear war and atomic terrorism? Or will we pass on to future generations a land devastated and destroyed by the enemies of civilization? This is the responsibility with which we have been charged by history. This is our challenge. This is the fight that falls to our generation. When we launched this campaign 13 months ago, we saw a movement grow. The pundits all said it was hopeless, but we saw over 300,000 volunteers all across this nation. Over 1.5 million contributions, averaging about $60 each. Many of those volunteers, many of those contributions, you never forget. Just a few days ago, 2 young kids, ages 4 and 6, handed me 2 envelopes full of change. All of their earnings from their lemonade stand. They wanted the campaign to have it. That's what built this campaign. That's what fueled this movement. Thank you to each of you, incredible patriots who have fought so hard to save our nation. And I with you. I am so grateful to you, to my amazing wife, Heidi. To our precious girls, Caroline and Catherine. To my mom, the prayer warrior. To my dad, who has traveled this nation preaching the gospel. To Carly Fiorina, who has been an incredible, phenomenal running mate. What you have done, the movement that you have started, is extraordinary. I love each and every one of you. From the beginning, I've said that I would continue on as long as there was a viable path to victory. Tonight, I'm sorry to say, it appears that path has been foreclosed. Together, we left it all on the field in Indiana. We gave it everything we've got. But the voters chose another path. And so, with a heavy heart, but with boundless optimism for the long-term future of our nation, we are suspending our campaign. But hear me now, I am not suspending our fight for liberty. am not suspending our fight to defend the Constitution.
All right, you've just watched Texas Senator Ted Cruz announcing that he is suspending his campaign to run for president after being defeated by Donald Trump in Indiana. Speaking in Indianapolis, and just last Friday at a rally that I covered in Evansville, Cruz had told voters he was going to stay in this regardless of what happened in Indiana. But tonight he is suspending his campaign, effectively dropping out of this race. Keep it right here on Eyewitness News. We return now to regular programming. Complete coverage coming up later tonight on Eyewitness News at 9 and 10.
From your local election headquarters, this is an Eyewitness News Indiana primary election update.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brad Bird. We'll return to regular programming on WEHT 25 and WTVW Local 7 in just a moment. But Donald Trump is now, I am told, on stage in New York, declaring victory in the Indiana primary.
We're going to start winning again, and we're going to win bigly. So when I got back tonight and I started watching all of the different networks, I could see immediately that we were doing very well, and it really looks like a massive victory, and it looks like we win all 57 delegates as far and I must say, in staying in various places in Indiana, we had I turned on the television and all I saw was negative ads, negative one after another, and I called my people and I said, how can we win? It's just constantly, and it was the same as Florida. You know, there's been 60,000 negative ads. I got it right from you folks, okay? 60,000. In fact, 2 weeks ago it was 55,000. Now it's 60,000 negative ads, most of which are absolutely false and disgusting. And I said, how can anybody endure this? I had one evening 2 nights ago where literally they had 5 ads on in between segments of a show that I was watching. And I said, that's just incredible. And the people are so smart. They don't buy it, they get it, and tremendous amounts of money were spent. Millions and millions of dollars, and they were comparing it. They think it was probably $8 million was spent against me, and we spent $900,000. So, I mean, to me, that's the way it's supposed to be. It's something that makes me feel really, really very good. And now we're going to Nebraska, where I just hear we're doing really wonderfully. I look forward to that very much. And West Virginia, and we're going to get those miners back to work. I'll tell you what, we're going to get those miners back to work. We're not going to be Hillary Clinton, and I watched her 3 or 4 weeks ago when she was talking about the miners as if they were just numbers. And she was talking about she wants the mines closed and she will never let them work again. Let me tell you, the miners in West Virginia and Pennsylvania, which was so great to me last week, Ohio, and all over, are going to start to work again, believe me. You're going to be proud again to be miners.
All right, Donald Trump declaring victory in the Indiana primary tonight. He is in New York. He says he's looking forward to Nebraska and West Virginia. In that segment you just watched live, no mention of Ted Cruz, but if you watched earlier here on Eyewitness News, Ted Cruz in Indianapolis announcing that he was suspending his campaign and he was leaving his campaign in the fields of Indiana. So it is now Donald Trump and John Kasich in the GOP race. Technically, Kasich way behind, mathematically eliminated for an outright nomination, of course. But Donald Trump declaring a victory in New York and Indiana. And on the Democratic side in Indiana, a much different story tonight. ABC News is projecting that Bernie Sanders has defeated Hillary Clinton in Indiana. Clinton made 2 appearances in Indiana, and that was in the northwest part of the state and in northern Indiana, in Mishawaka near South Bend, and also up in the Hammond area, northwestern Indiana. She made no other appearances in Indiana in this campaign. She had publicly indicated she was not concerned about the Indiana vote, but Bernie Sanders has defeated Hillary Clinton in Indiana. Sanders, of course, just making an appearance yesterday in Evansville. So Bernie Sanders, who has said he's going to take this all the way to the convention, this victory tonight will probably give him even more resolve to do so. Keep it right here. Eyewitness News at 9 coming up on Local 7 WTVW, followed by Eyewitness News at 10 on WEHT 25.